Welcome back to the Making the Madness YouTube channel. Sean back again for another video. This one we are going to discuss Sean McNeil, the sharpshooting guard from West Virginia, transferring to Ohio State, utilizing his extra year of eligibility. This is a big time move because Ohio State loses a lot from last year's roster, where they made the round of 32. They beat Loyola Chicago in the round of 64, but they did not get further than that. They were a 7th seed, and they didn't quite live up to expectations. Again, I feel like they underachieved what they should have done when you have a player like E.J. Liddell on your team and a player like Malachi Branham on your team, two guys that could wind up being first-round picks. You didn't win multiple tournament games. You couldn't get to the second weekend. And coming off a year where you lost to Oral Roberts, the 15 seed, as a 2 seed, that was only the 5th or 6th time that's happened. And they lost to a 15 seed. So you get Liddell back, and you can't advance very up. So defenders always have to keep an eye on him, so he can help open things up for others because of how good his shooting ability is. But when you look at this Ohio State roster, it's going to look quite a bit different, like I mentioned. Assuming Branham probably doesn't come back, he's keeping his options open, but he's likely a first-round pick and could only improve his stock from here on out as the NBA Combine and other things happen and interviews. E.J. Liddell is for sure gone, so the only starter that's returning on paper is Zed Key, who is going to be a junior. I think he could be in for a big breakout season, a higher usage role. He's going to be the go-to option on that offense with all their losing. But I have a huge concern about their point guard situation. You lose Jamari Wheeler, who is just a solid player. He's just about the same guy as C.J. Walker was the year before. He was a solid, really good defender, solid playmaker. If you leave him open, he's going to make a three. He did make quite a few big threes, but he didn't take a ton of them. And then you have not much else in terms of point guard play because Meechie Johnson transferred. So you're relying on a freshman. He's a top 50 recruit, Bruce Thornton Jr., 6'2" guard. But I always question when a freshman point guard comes in. Like, for every Cade Cunningham and Jalen Suggs and Derrick Rose, there's a handful of guys that come in and really struggle. And putting that much in a freshman's hands, coming straight out of high school, is never an easy task. So you're putting the entire offense, if they can't add anybody, which it's certainly possible. There's names out there that they could add to improve their roster. But if they don't add anybody, like they missed out on Nigel Pack, they're going to be running a freshman out there. And they don't have a veteran to back him up, so maybe they can add a veteran to back him up. Just another solid guy like Jamari Wheeler. There's options like that. But you're not adding a superstar point guard unless you're adding a Tyrese Hunter. That would be a big get if they can get a Tyrese Hunter or a Grant Sherfield or a guy like that. That would be a big difference maker, but their options are slowly disappearing because Nigel Pack's gone, Kendrick Davis is gone. Some of these guys that are highly touted recruits in the transfer portal are no longer in the transfer portal. So the time is ticking for Ohio State to make a big move. But if Bruce Thornton Jr. shows his top 50 caliber play right away, then Ohio State will be a really solid team. But again, that's a big question mark for me. A year after the point guard play was a big question mark for me last year. And then you look at the rest of the roster. Justice Suing, he's back. He's coming off an injury. He only played a handful of games last year. Getting him back is significant. He's such a talented player. He's able to handle the ball at 6'7". He's gonna play the 4 more than likely again for Ohio State. He can shoot the basketball. He's athletic. He can defend. I like what he brings to the table. He's just a very smooth player, and he could wind up being their best player next season if certain things go his way. He had 10 points per game, 36% from deep 2 years ago, 50% from the field on only seven attempts per game. So he brings that talent level back next year. And then when you look at the rest of the roster, Tanner Holden coming in from Wright State, he's another lefty wing that can really drive the ball to the basket. He's athletic. He's a long athlete, but he also doesn't shoot the ball often, and he's not a particularly good shooter. Only 35% in his career on 117 attempts, but he's really good at getting to the foul line. He attempted almost 8 free throws per game last season, which helped him average 20 points per game. He'll likely still be a great driver to the basket. I mean, that's what he does extremely well. He can hit a mid-range shot, and he's an Ohio native, so he'll return home. In his final game of the season with Wright State in the first round of the NCAA tournament, he was only able to go 3 for 11 with 12 points against Arizona. But against Purdue earlier in the year, he had 17 points in a blowout loss, but got to the foul line 6 times. So he's already played Big Ten competition in the past and showed that he's able to continue getting to the free throw line. We'll see if that continues, but if it does, Tanner Holden will be a pretty solid contributor for the Buckeyes. But they're likely going to have to add more from the portal for me to feel comfortable on them being a top 25 level team. I just don't see it right now. Maybe Seth Townsend get something out of it. They can get anything out of Seth Towns. If he can stay healthy, he could be a solid contributor. He's just never really been healthy. I mean, we're talking about a guy who was the Ivy League Player of the Year in 2017, 2018. Like, that's how long ago he was at the top of his game. He's been so unlucky when it comes to injuries. That's really just hampered his college career. He missed all of last year with an injury. He missed 2 years with Harvard with an injury. So 3 years of his college career, he's been sidelined with injuries. So if he's able to come back and show some of his talent, he'll be a pretty solid piece. But overall, this Ohio State team has some work to do for me to feel comfortable with them being they're probably a tournament team, but if they don't get Brandon back, they're going to have to prove themselves early on in the season in the non-conference play to me that they're going to be able to win despite not having elite point guard play if Thornton isn't able to show that from day one. But thanks for watching the video. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Sean McNeil, regardless of what the rest of the Ohio State roster looks like, he adds a reliable three-point shooting threat, and that was the video on him. Like and subscribe, and have a good one.